reasonable to suspect, and often there will be no other evidence, or often the other evidence will be kind of accumulated later, and although it might support the finding of guilt, like, oh, they live in the same state, or, oh, they have a prior record of some kind. Really what you're doing is you're saying this partial profile matches, and that's what I'm kind of building the scaffold of the case on, and these other coincidental factors just help support my finding. And so databases make that ambiguous quality of some of these samples much more potentially pernicious, because they allow police to take those incomplete samples and sort of find perpetrators who seem to match but may in fact not be the actual perpetrator of the crime.
And we will all see the unbelievable capacity of humanity to be noble. This is a great day. Thank you very much.
As the Human Genome Project was coming to a close, scientists worried about the possibilities of being able to quickly sequence genes. Today, in the wake of the Golden State Killer's capture, genealogical databases have also forced us to confront the possibilities of allowing the government to know so much about citizens' biological makeup without any guidelines. But the dark turn of DNA collection and databasing has already begun. While DNA can catch serial killers, it can also be used against citizens in horrific ways. While U.S. law enforcement was trying to catch the Golden State Killer, Chinese law enforcement began to collect the DNA of its population to crack down on future crimes. The act is a lesson in what's possible in a world where the government has few restrictions on how they can use DNA databases, as well as the larger role biotech companies have begun to play in law enforcement all over the world. In China, a group of minority Muslims called Uyghurs were targeted by police in the DNA dragnet. In the 1990s, after the Soviet Union fell, Uyghurs outside of China saw liberation in places like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, but Uyghurs in China's Xinjiang province did not. As Uyghurs in China began to protest, Beijing began to see them as a threat to statehood and met the resistance with violent retaliation.
In recent years, the Uyghurs have been the victims of discrimination, and any protest has been swiftly crushed.
Over the next 25 years, Chinese police took a proactive approach to controlling Uyghurs using technology. Uyghurs saw their lives become a living surveillance state full of cameras tracking their every move, police checkpoints and key cards that controlled where they could travel, software that monitored messages on their phones, and a grading system that determined how often they would receive visits from the police at home. Beijing also put Uyghurs in work and re-education camps and blamed the entire population for the acts of extremist terrorists. Today, it's not uncommon for Uyghurs to disappear without a word to family members. Some Uyghurs are never heard from again. Now with DNA, China's law enforcement has begun sorting Uyghurs and other minorities by their ethnicity under the guise of preventing future crimes. The information could help authorities dramatically tighten their control over Uyghurs' lives, excluding them from public education and healthcare, forcing them to live in ghettos, or sending them to internment camps based on their genetic makeup. In a world where DNA technology is rapidly revealing information about health, genealogical makeup, as well as information that leads to the capture of notorious criminals like the Golden State Killer, it's also giving us a world where authoritarian regimes can even more effectively succumb to horrific impulses.
When you see it in terms of this constant surveillance thing that's around your head, that is very powerful.